Hello, I'm Martin Schroeter, and I serve as the chairman and CEO of Kyndryl. And right now, no force is testing organizational readiness more than AI. That's why we're launching this series and why we've devoted our research to the topic of readiness. And my first guest is someone who spends every day helping Kyndryl navigate exactly these questions, our own Chief Information Officer, Kim Basile. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for having me, Martin.
One thing I've noticed over the last several years is that the conversation about AI has fundamentally changed. And maybe everybody started thinking about AI as a technology and what you had, how do you experiment with it? But what now it's become is, they're really keen to figure out where do they go from here? How do they scale? How do they get ready for this transition? Your thoughts, your experiences on this?
The scaling is the challenging part, right? When you think about what everyone started with, we all started with experimentation, then we went to productivity, and now it's how do you get it to outcomes? To get it to outcomes, it's really got to cut across an end-to-end process. You can't do that without the people. And I think that's what our readiness report continues to reinforce, is that many of the people are not confident. Almost 23% don't feel that there's a confidence level in the tools that they're using, how to use it, how to scale it. And so for us, what we try to do at Kyndryl, and what I think others are trying to do, is how do you create an environment that allows people to learn the technology while feeling that they're empowered to embed the technology in what they're doing while they're streamlining the processes. And that's not an easy thing, because most of us are used to just rolling out tech after tech after tech. This is looking up and almost seeing the forest through the trees.
So it's interesting that most people would assume kind of the opposite, that the more experience you get, that the better off you are, the more confident they are. Well, what's your sense? And deployment now is not breeding that same level of confidence. And in fact, what I'm hearing you say is that readiness is declining.
It's about the people and the organizational change that goes with the tech. And so you take your traditional developers that are used to developing and rolling out code, they're no longer doing that with AI. They're the group that's now overseeing the code. They're the group that's monitoring the code to make sure that it's applying the proper judgment, that it does have the proper permissions. And that's challenging for employees and people to really see that. Then there's the trust factor that comes into all that. Do you trust that what it's doing? Are you going to trust that AI is going to do something better than the person would do? And all of those fit into what I think is the change management, is the ability to get people to embrace it, to understand it, and really feel how they're going to make a difference in rolling it out.
Is AI, does it feel different? Are people rethinking the nature of work, and maybe are they familiar with the technology enough to understand how robust it can be?
AI is easily accessible. The technology is easily accessible. The ability to stop thinking about tech and start thinking about end-to-end processes and how you streamline them. We're used to putting tech on top of processes that we have in place. AI can streamline that. It can bring it in much faster. It can apply patterns and thought processes that would take humans a different amount of time to do. And so what I think is the challenge is the ability for the people to really think differently and bring forward that ability to really look at an end-to-end process outside of their area, and how do they solve a larger business problem. I do think that people are going to be at the core of this one. You can get the tech, that it's readily available. It's the people's ability to take the tech and apply it to their day-to-day, and their day-to-day has to be different. It can't just be applying it to emails, and it is fundamentally thinking about, how do I close the books where it used to take me a week, and can I close the books in 2 days? You can. The tools can help, technology can help you do that, but you've got to get a mindset of thinking that differently.
What you just described maybe is a part of an explanation on why this becomes such a big leadership issue then, because you have to make the case for change to people to use a technology that is fundamentally more powerful probably than just about anything else that they interacted with. And you have to therefore also create new roles. So it's a leadership issue in terms of how do you make the case for change. It's a leadership issue in how you organize yourself. And it's a leadership issue in how you help people navigate that change. Is that all fair? Something else that was in our report And you touched on this briefly, was this idea of trust. And do you trust the AI? And you also said, you have to convince people that what they're going to get out of that is better than what they could have done themselves or have other people do. So with trust being at sort of a behind, I'd say, in this technology, how do you, when you think about it with your team, how do you approach the trust issue?
There's a couple things. You have to have governance. Governance is at the core of everything. Governance gives people kind of what we call the rules of the road. How do you use the tool? What are the do's and don'ts with the tool? Where are the guardrails with the tool? Understanding how the data is used, the best way for the data. So there's the governance part of that. As I talked about in Keep Foot Stomping, there's a change management associated with that. That change management includes role changes, right? Your traditional development role, you need now business process analysts, you need human system architects, you need forward deployed engineers. They're fundamentally different roles that people have, but it may not encompass everything that they do. So the skills they have, you have to build up the other part of those skills for them. And then I think the third part of that is a level of transparency and allowing them the ability to use the tools, understand them, understand the best way to use them, but that transparency of what the tool can and cannot do, what the tool should and shouldn't do, those three things are important. When you talk about the leadership, there's a change in how you lead. You're now leading people and agents, and they're coexisting in a world together where there needs to be that balance. And that isn't, again, a natural, if you think back, most people are doing most of the work themselves, and then there's either an API or a job that's running, and they trust that the job ran the way it should and it applied, and there's some checks and balances. This is a very different technology where it's not just a job running, it's making decisions, it's completing tasks, it's going on to the next task, it's going much further. And so that trust for employees to say, I trust that I told it what to do, it's gonna do what I need it to do, and I feel confident that I'm doing the right thing while I'm overseeing it, it changes a skill set of what these employees need to think about, and it changes how you lead employees. But transparency is key in all that, helping them understand how they'll use it, how they bring it to the forefront, and how it's going to make things easier for them.
You are remarkably comfortable working without complete certainty. It's a fairly rare trait. People like certainty. Given how you talked about how an individual needs to engage with this technology and feel comfortable to build trust, how is there an experiential element to this? Is there a situational element from what you've been through and transformations you've led that has enhanced that ability to work and operate that way?
I don't know if my younger self would have been able to survive in this era. I think it comes with experience, but I also think it comes with, I am very hands-on. This is a technology you want to be hands-on. You want to learn. It's changing every single day. Every single news report, someone's releasing a new agent, someone's solving something. You have to have a very curious mindset with this technology. You have to play around with it. It's not one that you can just read a book and figure it out. It's not like that. It's moving so fast. And so for me, I think it's important. I think one of the things that we did at Kyndryl that I'm super proud of is the garage labs that we stood up. It's an environment that we stood up that we moved LLM tools and frontier AI tools in regularly. We're on our 7th one. We bring it in, we roll out licenses, we allow employees to get comfortable with it, get used to it, get familiar. Then we turn it on. So we make sure it's enterprise ready, it's got the guardrails, but it's a learning environment and it's open to everyone. It's not open, so it's open whether you're in finance or you're a developer, right? And I think that's important that people get the opportunity to learn how to use these tools. When I think of where we were 5 years ago, we went through a major transformation. This is another one for us. So we do this very, very well. Our employees do it well. But it's important for us as leaders to make sure that they have the tools and that they have the safe space to continue to transform, because transformation is going to happen. And either employees are going to go with it or they're not. And I think we have a very unique opportunity to allow them to see how to embrace it and really bring the kind of change that they can and get ahead of it for our customers. So I'm a huge advocate of letting people learn and try, and I think that has allowed me to work in what's a little bit of controlled chaos right now, this environment. It's every day something's changing, and You wake up and, I use this analogy a lot with customers. One minute we were all buying seats, the next minute we're buying consumption. We're buying consumption at 3 different models. That's a completely different world for us that we all have to adapt to, and that happened in a short window. So really understanding and being engaged is important for every level of the organization, not just your developers and that.
Yeah, it's interesting, the modern CIO, the CIO of today, is already vastly more technically deep than they were, say, 20 years ago. But what you're talking about are sort of the approach and the human skills it takes. Let's go into speculation mode. 3 years from now, AI becomes more capable. I know you're going to tell me in 3 hours it's going to change, but we'll pretend
3 minutes.
We'll pretend three years from now. AI is obviously going to be more capable. It will be more capable in 3 hours. What becomes more valuable then in people? How should, as a person watching this, what would your advice to be like? Well, here's why in 3 years you will be more valuable because of this.
You have to hone in on the human capabilities that AI cannot bring. It's judgment, it's accountability, it's relationships, it's decision-making beyond strategic decision-making, right? The tactical stuff is what AI can do. The other human parts of it cannot. And that's the piece that people need to kind of balance. That's where I talked earlier, that may not always be the strongest muscle, but it's one that if you keep working at it, it gets to become a stronger muscle, and then you're balanced. You've got a really strong technical acumen, but you need a business acumen. It is so important to understand how the business works, why they make decisions, what strategic priorities do they have. That's a little bit different when you're looking at a technical organization and asking them to sit down and, again, understand not how do you close the books, why is there value in closing the books in this window? What can you get ahead of? How do you look at predictive data? So all of that, in my mind, is thought leadership and accountability, judgment, and those types of mental things that you need to think about a little bit differently than just the let me figure out how to code. That is what AI is going to do. And so for a workforce generation today, it really is thinking differently about those human skills and how do they bring them forward.
Yeah, the obvious thread through all of this, every answer that you've given, everything you talked about, the obvious answer is that this is about people. It's not really about the technology. Maybe this technology is a little more powerful, and as you said, well, you have to really interact with it and try to understand it. But it's also what we found in our readiness report, that it really is about people. So when you think about how do you help people adapt and learn and take advantage and move forward successfully over a time period where everything's going to change very quickly and will continue to change, it's always about people. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Very insightful. Thanks to everyone who's watched. We appreciate the time. Hopefully this is helpful. And as I said, this is the beginning of a series where we'll talk to thought leaders around what is AI, what does it mean for us, and how do we embrace it, and how do we get the most out of it. Thank you.